Alrighty, what is up guys? Evan Aldo here. Wanted to show you the latest kind of breakout trade I was trying to do on Bitcoin. Got a few other trades open as well right now. So we're kind of breaking above 28K on a Friday night. A little bit risky, so be careful. You know, don't just blindly follow Evan Aldo on YouTube and then it's his fault that the trade got stopped out. There's always going to be a shot that the trade does get stopped out. I mean, you could see a stop loss here. Maybe it's a little bit too tight. You know, use your own due diligence. Use your own due diligence, obviously. But if you're interested in trading, check out the link down below for FAIRDESK. Good exchange, no KYC, no VPN. Down below, MEXC is great as well, especially for some of those micro caps that we've had a lot of fun with in the Aldo Empire Discord. Don't want to show too much stuff, but the Discord is down below as well. And if you guys are new, completely free crypto DCA course on evanaldo.com. Check it out. Seriously, completely free. Let's get into the analysis. So hopefully this little guy does well. Hopefully we get up a little bit higher. First thing I want to start off with here is going to be, you know, we're hitting that spiral line. We're breaking up above essentially your 200 weekly moving average at 28K. It is the weekend. I mean, I would say this formation overall is pretty bullish, and the money flow is still pretty strong in the 4 hour, 5 hour as well, 8 hour as well, green dot. It looks like most likely you will continue forward here. I think this spiral line up here around 28, high 28s is going to be a big area. I had CVO Crypto on a little earlier today on my live stream. He was talking about potentially a jump up to 30K. I think it's possible, especially if we do break above that 28 area right there. His timeline is potentially another week. I think he's on par. I mean, I think that most likely that's probably what will happen, but obviously anything can happen. And you know, I think I mentioned already, you know, the daily looks good. And money flow, you know, kind of coming up to the green here. But look, I mean, typically when we are on the green, you kind of dump over. You know, here you jump up a bit more and then you roll over. Like, look at this money flow. You jump up a bit more and then you roll over. Here, jump up a bit more, then you roll over. That's what I think is most likely going to happen. We jump up a bit more, maybe 29, maybe 30K. You test that gigantic, you know, huge level. Get all the bulls excited, get all the bears scared, and then what do? You just drop down. So I think that's kind of what we potentially could see. And we could see some alts ride up a little bit. I think ADA has a good shot here. We'll talk about that. Cardano as well, I think, has a good shot here. ApeCoin, not as optimistic. I was looking at that a while ago. But yeah. And, you know, 15 bull here on the 16. So things generally, when we look at, let's look at some of the micro kind of time frames, lower time frames, hourly, money flow coming down. But I mean, that's just, there's always, the lower time frames will always tell you something could be different. Money flow kind of coming up on the 30. And 10 potentially for that kind of VWAP to continue. And let's see, money flow kind of coming down. So short term, you could potentially see a jump or something off of kind of these areas. And I think if we could jump off of this area and solidify that 28K, that's going to be pretty big. Also, moving average right there, 27.8. So we'll see what happens here. ETH, similar thing. Pretty bullish on the 20 hour. I think the daily as well does have a trigger wave. Or no, it's the 20 hour does have a trigger wave. Reverse head and shoulders. I mean, if you do break upward off of this kind of pattern, you got the kind of neckline here. You're coming up to 17. And I think that ETH is going to, you know, continue to bleed against Bitcoin. I think maybe even if you get up to 29.30, this may only go up to like 18K or 1800, I should say. Maybe it could get up to 1900 up there. That's a bit of a stretch. I don't know if you're going to make it that high. But the 20 hour looks pretty good. Money flow and VWAP coming up on the daily. 14 bear on the 2 day. This is where it gets a little bit more where I would be hesitant to enter along here, because the 2 day 14 bear, that's pretty big. And a trigger wave, not too good. I mean, look at this trigger wave right there. That was a big drop down. So that's why I'm not as optimistic on ETH right now. I'm just not as optimistic on ETH. But it obviously does normally follow Bitcoin weekly in the red right there. And also, when you look at the 3 hour, that's kind of generally coming down with the money flow. So I do think there could be some short-term potential kind of relief here. But, you know, you got that trigger wave there. But I just don't think, I think it's going to keep bleeding against Bitcoin, as we've seen generally in this year, you know, since August of 2022. 17 bear on the 2 week just keeps kind of coming down. I think you're going to get, my guess here is you may get to this area down here maybe if we jump up to 29, 30K, you get to this area right here, ETH lags behind. It's inflationary right now, bleeds another 5%. And then when we finally come down from that 30K for Bitcoin, finally come down there, it bleeds a lot more down here, and then finally bottoms out against Bitcoin sometime end of this year, potentially early next year. November could be a big month for that. November could be a big month for that, especially if things happen relatively quickly, So yeah, and ultimately what I want to look at here too is going to be lower time frames, money flow coming out, nothing looking too good right there. 20 bear on your 4 hour. That looks very bearish overall. Ultimately, Bitcoin dominance, I think, will continue forward as altcoins generally bleed against Bitcoin. I think the main thing to go long on is Bitcoin, and then there's a few, esoteric kind of, like Cardano, maybe AVAX too, that could jump up a little bit more in the short term, I'm kind of thinking. And then do seeing a nice rejection. You are seeing a nice rejection over there. And then ultimately, yeah. That's kind of breaking up. So I noticed this out of nowhere. Silver metal's got a nice strip down. Now we're kind of breaking up. I think this may continue upward with crypto potentially over the next week. You could see a nice kind of jump up to potentially $22 an ounce here, but nobody really cares about silver right now. And then if we look at Cardano here, a little bit of spoil alert there, but essentially, let me draw that fib level again. Essentially, I do think we can break upward out of this kind of reverse head and shoulder thing to potentially up to this area. If you do want a good trade for this with a good shot of winning, I do have it in the Allo Empire Discord. A lot of good stuff being brought to you by Landicore, CBZ, and KMAC in there. Also, we are doing the Aldo Academy, a lot of one-on-one sessions there as well. So, yeah. Yeah. Lower time frames, a bit of a pullback in the very short term potentially, but I think you're most likely going to come up a bit higher here for Cardano, especially when you look at, especially when you look at the curvature in the daily. Those RSIs look like they want to come up higher, and I think what's going to happen is you get up to this point, everybody gets excited, 28 cents in about a week or so, then these RSIs are really freaking gapped, and then you finally kind of come down from that. So that's what I'm looking at there. AVAX is another one that I want to show you guys, because AVAX ultimately does have a bullish trajectory as well. When you look at some of these time frames, money flow coming up, if you do break out of this kind of rounding bottom pattern, your technical target is going to be around $12, something of that nature. I think could work out relatively well. I'd be a little bit more inclined to go long on Cardano, but something like this, you got a good shot here. Something like this, that is volatile, freaking 18%. I mean, you don't even need leverage for this, but if you do want to make some of these trades, check out FAIRDESK, check out MEXC, all great. FAIRDESK is great as well. Those are the best exchanges, I think, to use in this environment. Non-KYC required, and no VPN required for the majority of them, except for PHEMEX BT. That one's really good for Forex and traditional markets. So yeah, ultimately that's that right now for AVAX. Looking like in the short term, this one actually looks pretty good in the short term. Looking like you could kind of continue forward here. So that's ultimately what I'm looking at right there. But ultimately, guys, just to show you guys on the macro here, like what's going on. I mean, you got the green dot in the monthly here, which will probably bring you up a bit more, but this may not confirm. You come up to 29, even 30K. And in the second half of this month, we just nuked down back to 25 or something. This is not going to confirm, and that VWAP is going to come below the zero line here, and you're gonna come down more essentially. And this could be potentially the first time we see sometime next year this come into the red here. Now, for the Nasdaq, when the Nasdaq came in the red after the .com bubble, it actually had bottomed before that. So 15K I think is most likely the bottom. I think ultimately on the macro, I got the wrong chart up. Let me just show you my Bitstamp chart here. On the macro here, coming down a bit more, 300 weekly moving average is still my main prediction. Could take a little bit longer now, but don't be fooled too much. I think we do need, these RSIs are good coming up, but I think we do need to see something like this come together end of year, early next year, and that's where we could finally be home free. Anyway, guys, that's all I got. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Always appreciate that. Check out the Discord down below. Check out the free trading course. Got a lot of really good resources for you down below. The promos, I work hard to get you guys the promos for the exchanges, especially the FAIRDESK and MEXC promos down below. There's trading bonuses. We shout out the winners of those every week in the Discord. So check it out, guys. All right, guys, have a good one. Bye.